We live so far removed from how we kind of should live. And what is the cost and what is the sort of the benefit of it?
This is a tool. Why am I picking it up now? Am I using it for something?
It's that isolation, it's that chronic stress having an effect on so many people. Our thoughts will betray us, they don't reflect what is reasonable,
How to manage your sleep, why your sleep's important, how to address anxiety issue, what anxiety is, how to spot it, what tools can you use to manage it. And we're teaching them about mobility, we're teaching them about Olympic weightlifting, we're teaching them about building strength.
You're giving these people a solid starting point to then go on their own journeys. Knowing what you know now, if you were to start again, what would you do differently?
In the context of stand tall or just life in general?
Well, take it how you want. Either's fine.
After you, Chaz.
After me. I'm proper on the spot here. I don't think I would change anything so far, thankfully. It's just it's gone quite well. We've been very cautious. We're taking our time, slowly expanding things as we feel comfortable and we feel like we're doing a good job. Then we look to expand things a little bit further. So it's just going really well at the moment. I don't really think I'd change a thing, to be honest.
Oh, good.
Yeah, the less I'd remind myself of is just if you've got an idea you're passionate about, kind of go for it, because there were probably lots of opportunities where we could have done things earlier, done things differently earlier on. That was kind of held back by just, I'm not sure, or it's just too much, and the work's in the way, all that kind of thing. So, yeah, if you've got an idea or a gut feeling there's something that you're going to enjoy or it's going to be good, just go for it, get it done, I think. Yeah.
I think what Paul's trying to say is I'm the person who holds him back. Check.
We've been taking things very cautiously. It's very good. Oh yeah, I think we should just remind ourselves we need to go for stuff. Yeah, two very different answers there.
Maybe that's why we work well together, Chaz, because you're a more reserved, sensible one, and I'm like, I got an idea, Chaz, let's do this. Yeah.
I think it's the same with me and Taylor. To be honest, I'm very much like, let's do this, let's do it. We've got this idea. Look, do it now. You got to do it now, otherwise it's not going to happen. And then he's like, oh, let's plan it a bit, and yeah, very different, but
that's why it works.
Yeah. So can you give us a bit of a background on Stand Tall? Explain to the listeners what Stand Tall is, what you do, and then how you got into doing it.
Okay, so what it is, so Stand Tall, as I start with how we set up first, start there.
Yeah.
So my background is I'm a mental health nurse by background. I've been working in sort of a local health board for a fair few years, and I've been in a range of different jobs, range of different sort of clinical settings, and time again I would sort of get a bit, not fed up is the wrong word, but I would notice that there's lots of guys who are struggling, and very quick to recommend therapies, which have their place obviously, and some people need therapies in groups, and lots of talk about mental health. And I think what a lot of time is missing are the things that aren't sort of medical related. Having a community, exercising, having a bit of a sense of place, having a sense of purpose, and looking after yourself, and having the knowledge to look after yourself. And I would often see blokes who just fall into this trap. They're in these vicious spirals of self-loathing and then severe mental illness. And I just had this idea that why isn't there a group that actually delivers both some sort of talking stuff as well as physical stuff. So I had a very vague idea of something. I remember speaking to Chaz. We were watching our kids play football, and our kids are the sort of same age and play the same football team. Chaz, I got this idea. I want to do this gym thing with just talk to guys afterwards about stuff. And Chaz, I guess, went away with the idea and sort of thought about it. He was texting me afterwards, and I think that kind of started a bit of an idea, and that kind of turned into Stand Tall. Then I think at that point, probably we weren't 100% what it was going to look like, but it started to develop, and then what we sort of have set up now, and the main thing we're currently doing is running our strength and wellbeing course. So this is an 8-week course that's available to guys through self-referral, as long as they're physically okay and not sort of too they don't need sort of urgent medical help. They can come and join us, and we take them through an 8-week course that has 2 parts. First part is all based in the gym. I'm sure Chaz will tell you more about that. The second part then is based on we've got a space next door to where we do the gym stuff, and we go for a range of wellbeing workshops and different topics. I draw up on my background as a mental health nurse, my sort of qualifications in cognitive behavioural therapy, and just my experience and things I've picked up over the years. So they're the kind of thing we teach, the kind of things that I found really helpful over the years. And the idea being, it's not therapy. We're not giving people. It's not about talking, although it does help. It's all about learning stuff, learning practical skills, learning things about some mental health and well-being that you didn't know before. And that's kind of a very rough snapshot of Santol and how he came to it and what it looks like. And I guess that's the start. And we're hoping to do a lot more as well. I'm sure we'll talk about the other things we're thinking about and we're planning on doing as well. So, yeah. Do you want to tell anything about the gym stuff, Chad?
Yeah, so it's basically an introduction to Olympic weightlifting. I mean, the first session we get them in there, we work through the snatch from start to finish. PVC pipe, obviously, you start on. But essentially, by the end of the first session, we want to get them to get in an empty barbell above their head, maybe with a couple of fractionals on it. Obviously, safely, if they can. And then we kind of just work through the first 4 weeks on the snatch, second 4 weeks on the clean and jerk. But it's also used as a vehicle to teach other things. So week 2 is completely about mobility, taking through the what I see is like the 4 foundational pillars of mobility: the front splits, side splits, pancake, and back bridge. And just taking it so that someone who is able to get in and out of a seat at that level can work towards those things. And then looking at things like shoulder bulletproofing, exercises for the shoulders, doing some powerlifting stuff as well, just working through a complete gamut, sort of giving them a complete foundational idea of what they can do when they walk into a gym for the first time. And also the guys, when they come on the course, they get access to the back end of our website where all of the notes for the full 8 weeks are there, including instructional videos for the gym stuff and some more detailed notes, and then all the notes for pool sessions as well. So
it's great because I take part in the sessions as well that Chaz does, and I learn loads as well, and I'm a very amateur sort of with the weights, and it's great to sort of go through all the mobility and the exercise and the shoulder stuff is great. So yeah, it's fantastic.
Yeah. Why weightlifting? What made you decide on weightlifting? Because there's so many different modalities to training.
They are. I think potentially start off by saying weightlifting is really just the start. But we started with weightlifting because we wanted to do something that attracts guys in, something that gets them active, something that's a skill that they probably don't already have. So they're coming in fresh-faced, something they've never done before, maybe a little bit nervous. But by the end of the first session, they've actually got a snatch. It might not look amazing, but they've achieved something. And it's just developing that confidence through learning. I mean, you become more confident as you become more competent. And if you've got something you've never done before and you go to being able to do it a little bit, maybe not amazingly, but just being able to do it at all, that's a massive leap in competence. And it just gets them going, gets the ball rolling, gets them moving in a direction where a lot of the guys who come off the back of our course sign up for gyms. We've had a couple looking to sign up for CrossFit. Some just go into like a Snap Fitness sort of Globo gym, but they're getting them active out the back of it.
Yeah, I think you probably add to this as well. But when it comes to sort of weightlifting resistance training, arguably it's probably up there with the most important stuff a bloke should be doing. And I think that a typical demographic at the moment, just by chance, tends to be sort of 34-year-old, dads who are probably a bit out of shape, out of practice, where it's the age where testosterone begins to drop off rapidly if you're not, you don't maintain a healthy lifestyle. I think and weightlifting's a good, the compound movements from Olympic lifting, all the other stuff in between, is quite a good thing to establish a bit of strength and hopefully hang on to the weight and testosterone. So I think there's a lot of physical reasons why we do it, and I think what I find interesting is being a sort of a mental health sort of a professional and sort of seeing this not as a weightlifter is this really technical. And I remember we've had guys who sort of really struggle with it and they feel a bit overwhelmed at first, and they're like, oh god, what is this thing? But by the end, they're kind of throwing weights around. I'll bet it might not be a massive amount, but they've gone from being complete novices to actually doing a few deadlifts, chucking some snatches in the air, and that's great to see. And I think it's a real good confidence builder, learning that skill, and it's great.
Amazing. So you spoke a bit about building, like you didn't see that area where there was anything really building the mental health side of things as well as the physical. Like, how have you tried to bridge that gap? Because it's something that's, looking in from the outside, it's something that seems like it's quite hard to do in a way, because everyone always says, oh yeah, go and exercise, like that's really good for your mental health, and they're like, oh, build this community around you, but it's so hard to actually action that advice, I find, because like you're saying, like Olympic lifting, really technical, really overwhelming. Get a coach, yeah, okay, that's hard for people. It's not easy to do. How have you made it like easy to get involved and build that community?
Yeah, so one of the things we wanted to do is to keep this as far from being like a medical or a therapy intervention. So at the moment, what we're doing is it's purely self-referral. So if a guy sort of sees us on social media, we're sort of being promoted around by local GPs and local surgeries and services. If they see it, all they got to do is just fill out a very brief, online referral thing. Have a very quick phone conversation with them, give them a lowdown on what it is, it's all abilities, and we're getting guys in that way. And I think it's gradually spreading by word of mouth now. But you're right, it is hard. I think there's not an easy way to get the guys who need this kind of intervention into us. We have to start by just that bit of word of mouth, that gradually getting out there. And I think notoriously, blokes who are really sort of struggling, who are isolated, are quite a hard to reach group. So we're trying our best to sort of try and catch them. One thing I know is personally is from my work is that it's very difficult for guys to get to sort of help as well, and before it's too late. Often by the time a guy goes to his GP, and this is true now for physical health and mental health, it's can often be very, very late. So they're down the rabbit hole then of mental illness, or a serious physical illness has taken hold. So we're trying to be somewhere guys can access without necessarily the need of going to the doctor initially. And I would hope that in regards to mental health, because they're coming in, they're lifting weights, they're feeling a bit better, they're learning about aspects from depression to anxiety to sleep to various emotional skills, all these different kind of approaches that we use in our sessions. I would hope that by then, if they're struggling with that mental health, they kind of got the words to use. They can talk about it. They've got a bit of a community around them. And I think a lot of the guys who come on our courses, they go, oh yeah, Jesus, there's people who are struggling too. So we're kind of hoping we can sort of have a bit of community who can start then to mention their mental health or talk about things, or go to the GP and ask for help if needed. I often think that we try and shoehorn, I'm just rambling on a bit here, but we try and shoehorn men into, you get help. Men, if not, some men will, but a lot of guys won't. If they're at the depths of despair and self-loathing, ask them to get help. It won't happen. You need to get to them another way.
Yeah.
So if you get them in the gym, if you can get them learning about stuff, learning about the science of sleep, or the science of depression and anxiety, that kind of thing, that's where you can kind of catch them, I think.
Okay.
Yeah, so that's what we're sort of trying to do. Yeah.
I suppose as well, like with what you're saying there, where you turn to someone, you say, create a community, sort this out about your life, go to the gym. Those are quite big statements which actually have a lot behind them.
Yeah.
Like you obviously know yourself, starting any kind of getting some kind of exercise goal and just achieving that, you have to take so much on board with like your nutrition, your recovery, your mobility, your strength, your putting it all together as well. What we're trying to do is bring those base tools, teach the guys how to use them, and then they go out into the world. Yeah. We're giving them the tools they need to be able to do that stuff. Mm. So Paul is teaching them the mental health aspects you need as well, like how to manage your sleep, why your sleep's important, how to address anxiety issues, what anxiety is, how to spot it, what tools can you use to manage it. And then when they come in the gym, we're teaching them about mobility, we're teaching them about Olympic weightlifting, we're teaching them about building strength with powerlifting movements. So we're giving them the tools to actually do those things, as opposed to just saying, go on, get on with it.
Yeah, it's definitely like from both aspects, the mental health and the gym side of things, it very much seems like you're giving these people a solid starting point to then go on their own journeys. It's not like, right, this is what you should do, go off and do it.
Absolutely.
It's like, no, come with us, we'll show you the basics, and then like that's when you have to go off and
here's your map, here's your compass, this is what you do. And then your life is your own journey, isn't it?
Yeah.
You can't take that away from people. You can't sort of coddle them into if you do this now, do that now, do that now, well, they've not gotten anything from that. But if you teach them why they do those things then and there and how to do them, then they can take that and run with it.
Yeah.
And then when it's around other guys who are, also maybe struggling too, I think that just adds another level to it as well. Yeah.
Do the people that come on your workshops tend to stay in contact after the course, do you know?
Yeah, so I think what we'd like to do, and now we are relatively early, so I think we ran our first course in January, which is a sort of pilot version, and we've been running it since. So it's been, how long was that? 10 months, isn't it? We're hoping to build a bit of community, build the people who've come through our course. We've got that kind of connection, we've got that link there, and the idea is that we want to be able to keep going, keep running this course, keep getting this community of men coming through, and then be able to offer more things. We've got some ideas of things we want to be able to do. It's hard. Me and Chaz both work full time, and we're trying to fit this in our spare time. But we'd like to be able to offer more things, be a bit more, fun and interesting, a bit more dynamic. But like the kind of the backbone is our strength and wellbeing course, isn't it?
Yeah.
End of the year, we've got a friend of mine who's a self-defense instructor, so he's doing a series of self-defense sessions, which ought to be good fun. We've got some other pie in the sky ideas too. We're hoping to run some sort of down the line, some surf stuff and well-being stuff. So we're gonna have that kind of almost that bank of guys who've been through our course, and maybe that bit of community, and then keeping in touch with them, and providing more things down the line as well, for free or heavily subsidised as well. So that's the idea, because gyms nowadays are pretty expensive. Where we live in Barry, a lot of the guys couldn't necessarily afford a CrossFit gym membership or some fancy gym membership of 50-60 quid a month. So we're trying to do things that they can access good quality training, good quality resources without the cost as well, which can be a huge barrier to guys, particularly in our neck of the woods.
Yeah. So you're sort of talking about it being like this journey, and you're setting them off. After the workshops are finished, the 8 weeks, where do you advise them going from there? Like, what's the next steps for them? Is there any support? Do you sort of try and signpost them anywhere?
Yeah, so usually at the end of each workshop, so we did a session on, say, depression, for example. So the ins and outs of depression, how to spot it, what to do about it. At the end of each session, there'll be some resources to access, where the help you can get the help from. And then we're always on open communication. If a guy wants to sort of have a chat with us about various gym stuff, what to do at home, what to do in the gym, Chaz can will help them out with that and direct them. If it's maybe sort of well-being or mental health related, I can give them that bit of signpost and that bit of advice. So yeah, it's quite individual really. We don't sort of have a blanket, or everyone needs to do this now, but we try to keep it quite individual. And yeah.
And then, other than sort of their journey, with your journey, you've briefly spoken about what you want to start offering next. Where do you see Stand Tall in let's say a year from now or 5 years from now? What's the goal? Where are we planning to go to?
Where we're planning, so Paul briefly mentioned, we've got someone doing a self-defense course of 4 weeks towards the end of this year. That's almost like a mini pilot, because we want to add that in as a new activity potentially. Hopefully maybe something like self-defense or MMA, something like that. But again, it's another skill that's quite attractive to blokes. It's also quite a transferable skill that they can take out into the world. If you know how to handle yourself, you can feel a lot more comfortable in social situations. Sounds a bit drastic, but that is the case,
Yeah, not take it out in the world as going bat grannies or anything.
No, you don't do that, because you will. You know innately that you can handle yourself in a situation. So people who do things like that are less likely to engage in violence because they don't lash out. We're also potentially looking at the option of doing a surfing course. You've got a contact in the surfing world.
Yeah.
And I'm slowly building up to do a national beach lifeguarding qualification, so I'll stand on the beach while Paul goes off in the water with them. You're potentially looking at doing a mountain leader course.
Yeah. So down the line, we're looking at some options in the future. It's just we want to try and find things that are just really kind of wholesome activities to do, that surfing and self-defense and all. They're great for well-being in general, and if we can combine it with our ethos, is all about learning. It's not just about mental health or physical health. It's about learning about stuff. we're trying to slowly do that. And also, we are running so out alongside our strength and wellbeing course, doing sort of workshops. So at the moment, we've got 3 workshops that we're currently in the middle of. They're being run by an outside organisation called Beyond the Quality. It's like a Movember funded project. So we got a few of our guys who've attended our courses or attending these workshops around sort of well-being and masculinity. We've got a talk next month from a Ospreys or ex-Ospreys rugby player who's coming down.
Ashley.
Yeah, Lloyd Ashley. So that's on the 22nd of November. So he's coming down to Barry to do a talk to our guys as well. And we hope to kind of maybe have regular guest speakers. With the idea is all about learning, it's all about kind of growth and community. So, but yeah, in a year's time, where do you see in a year's time, Jez?
Well, my son's currently 8, he's turning 9 in February. I'm hoping in a year or two's time, when he goes off to secondary school, I have a bit more time on my hands. What I'd absolutely love to do is have almost like a weekly or even bi-weekly gym session that the guys can drop in on, where we take sort of almost like a small group PT session. It gives them a chance to sort of touch base if they want to come back and talk about anything. If they want to continuously engage with us in kind of a small community environment, that's good. And plus it gives them a chance to access the gym pretty cheaply as well.
Yeah.
You know, maybe a few quid a session, and then come and get an hour's intense exercise and a coffee afterwards, something like that. That would be lovely if I could set that up.
Yeah. Do you guys see this being like a full-time thing at all?
That would be a dream, I suppose. Yeah. That's kind of pie in the sky stuff. We've both got very stable, long-term careers behind us as well. But if we could, I always joke, say, chat about one day a week, just one day a week where I could drop in work. Well, my boss, I'm sure my boss wouldn't see this if I'm honest. But yeah, she doesn't know that yet. But that'd be the plan. If we could just do that, just one day where we could afford to do things with Stand Tall. That'd be a dream, I think.
He's the sensible, reserved one on this case.
Yeah,
I'd love to do it full time.
Yeah.
Absolutely love it, and maybe like expand it out into Cardiff, something like that.
Yeah.
So we cover a bigger base. But yeah, I mean, there does seem to be the call for it. The difficulty is in monetising something like this to keep it being perpetual, because at the moment we've had a grant from the National Lottery. We could potentially go for a bigger grant next time, because we went for a very small one this time. But you can't do that forever.
Yeah.
So we need to figure out how to get in revenue streams. And again, that requires more time to do that. So it's one of these almost like catch-22 situations where you're stuck because you can't grow, because you need more time to grow.
And we're delivering something to guys who probably can afford stuff as well. So it's that's our main bread and butter, isn't it? We want to be able to deliver those things to the people who need it the most, really.
Yeah. So going to the mental health side of things, because that's the target audience, essentially, men that are struggling with mental health. What do you see as the main sort of issues within like society or people's lives that lead them down that slippery slope of having that sort of negative mental health?
The main issues. So my day job involves speaking to a lot of people. So and I do a lot of assessments, a lot of interventions, a lot of group sort of work as well around a range of people from a range of backgrounds with a range of problems, and things are very stressful at the moment. Life is very, very stressful, and I think without sounding a bit too sort of out there, I think we live so far removed from how we kind of should live. I don't mean to sound like I always joke I consider myself a bit of an amateur evolutionary psychologist. I'm not, but I think we live so far removed from how we should be living. We're in this world of desk jobs, this world of just chronic stress, being indoors, sedentary lifestyles. We've got these financial issues now that are just getting on top of everyone. I'm talking about on the drive up about all the news at the moment. There's just an existential crisis, and there's a stress around every corner, and it's so easy for people just to lose sight of living and enjoying themselves and having fun and being connected. And I think, especially with kind of on the financial side of things, people living just inherently really isolated lives now because they're restricted, because they can't afford to do things. And I think it's that isolation, it's that just the chronic stress that's having an effect on so many people. And I think often with men, it's that cliche and that stereotype of men not necessarily talking, men kind of bottling things up, men isolating, withdrawing, sort of being tough, don't want to show their weakness, and they just lock themselves away and they crack on with their life as is, and things gradually sort of fray at the seams. And I think it's just such a challenging environment sort of to be in at the moment, I think. So yeah, I'm not sure that answers your question, but
what do you think is different in sort of more recent society that maybe is different to how it was, like, say 20, 40, 60, 100 years ago? Because, like, mental health seems to be a big thing. It seems like it's grown a lot over these, like, past, say, 10 years. Like, it's become such an incredible issue.
yeah.
What's different? What's changed?
I don't know. Like, it's
What was it like 100 years ago, Paul?
yeah. I can't speak for that long ago, I suppose, but I think at the moment there seems to be a lot more kind of chronic stresses in life. When I say chronic stresses, I mean just there could be physical chronic health problems. There's been an increase in obesity, of kind of metabolic disorders, like diabetes and blood sugar issues and blood pressure and all these things that kind of happen. And there's this chronic inflammation. There's this horrendous diet we tend to have. We live a much more sedentary lifestyle, I think, and add to that then just kind of financial strain. Add that our modern hectic lifestyles of just stress everywhere, chucking social media now to the younger generations as well. There's an added stress around every corner. I'm trying to think back to my childhood. My siblings are older than me, and they were playing baseball. They were playing rugby. We lived in a very kind of quite poor area of Cardiff in Splot. But there was just a lot more kind of activity. There's a lot more again, little things like just cooking and the community sort of space. I used to go to kind of scouts. I was connected with the local church. We were playing baseball and rugby on the weekends, and all these kind of things will be going on. And I guess that's my family. That's my experience with my family. But it just feels like now the community now is just sort of dwindling, and there seems to be more and more people, but more and more isolation. That's kind of what I think. At the same time, I think with mental health as well, it has become very easy now to medicalise and label mental health, and that's the kind of the other end of the spectrum. There may not be more mental health problems than there were 30, 40 years ago, but we certainly know more about it now. So I think people who wouldn't identify as having mental health problems are now, but furthermore, I think it's much more easier for medical professionals to diagnose, because it's more in the conversations, isn't it, nowadays? Mental health awareness, you can't move for it, can you, on social media? It's a lot of it, which is great, but I think it does have a dark side, and that is people are seeking mental health difficulties. They are seeking labels, when in fact what they need is, they need lifestyle changes. They need help. They need community. They don't necessarily need a label and a medical intervention. That makes sense.
Yeah, I think for me the thing that jumps out of my mind is technology just speeding up life continuously. Just a quick analogy is like when I was a teenager, if you wanted to talk to someone, they'd have to be at home. You'd have to be at home or in a phone box and know their phone number off by heart, and you'd have to have coins on you to ring them to organise to go out. Whereas now it's like everyone is continuously available for contact, continuously being saturated with information that's probably not very relevant to their day-to-day life, because before you'd have to wait for the 9 o'clock news or pick up a newspaper to see it. But it's just coming in, it's just continuous, just constant, faster and faster pace. And you don't give time to just breathe. And back before all this technology made things so available, life was just a hell of a lot slower.
Yeah. Even WhatsApp, there's just, before WhatsApp, I'd have the odd text message from someone.
Yeah.
And I was like, various, all the stuff to do with the kids and groups and stuff. There's information everywhere, isn't there? We're constantly almost on edge, aren't we?
You've got to end up taking breaks from it. I find myself having to just I silence my phone during the day. It goes on to work mode where I don't get disturbed. Messages still come through, but I have to unlock it to see the notifications pop up, because really I don't have to get back to that person instantly, although there is now the sort of the expectation of it, and the expectation you put on yourself to have to react instantly and get back to people instantly. It's like, no, actually, this can wait a few hours and I can get on with what's important, not what's immediate, and just sort of take a step back, you know.
Yeah, I think it's so important to look at your screen time. Like,
Yeah.
I looked at mine recently when you go into your settings and like look at it, and I was like, I spend that long looking at my phone. And like, granted, sometimes for me, like, I listen to a lot of music and podcasts, so Spotify is like, it might say like 2 hours, and I'm like, yeah, but I wasn't actually like looking at my phone for that time.
Is that how it works?
What with mine, because like mine's
Yeah.
unlocked when it's playing.
I see.
So like my screen's on.
Gotcha.
I'm just not like sitting there staring at the screen.
Yeah.
Like with maps as well. Like I always have maps on when I'm in the car, just in case there's been an accident and I have to go a different way. And then it's like hour and a half of maps a day, and then I'm like, okay, like I can give myself a little break. But then when it's still adding up to like, in my head, anything over like 2-3 hours, I'm like, that's too much.
Yeah, I used to have weekly warnings, but with my screen time, I turned it off because I couldn't deal with the stress of seeing that number.
And the thing with that is, because what I've done now is I've got it on my home screen, so it's got like the bar that says this is how long you've spent and this is what apps it's on. And if like Instagram or Facebook are top two, I'm like, my phone's going away now. Like, I'm not looking at that.
That stuff is nasty. I mean, you've got to be disciplined about it. You've got to say, like, this is a tool. Why am I picking it up now? Am I using it for something? Or am I just using it for leisure? Because if you use it for leisure, my philosophy is, well, you've got to get all your stuff done during the day before you pick that up in the evening for an hour or something like that. Because that stuff is just nasty. I remember reading about Twitter. You know when you open Twitter and then it takes a couple of seconds for the number of notifications to appear? They figured out how long to have that delay on before that number comes up based on research in the gambling world.
Yeah.
It's mad. It's just like down to that level they figured out how to hook you into it just to get that dopamine kick, and it is like taking drugs almost, isn't it?
Yeah.
Just continuously you're scrolling, looking for things. That's continuously releasing dopamine in your mind. It's almost like taking drugs. It's terrible for you.
Yeah.
Yeah, we talk, one of the courses we run at my work, we talk about that, like there's unhelpful behaviours, and one like a good way of doing it is asking like, why are you doing it? And if the good rule of thumb is, if you're uncomfortable and you're doing it to alleviate some discomfort, that's a good cue to say, no, don't do it. Because it's that very discomfort, when we get that relief, that little dopamine hit, our body loves it, clings onto that, and it learns when you feel that discomfort, oh, this is how I get this little burst of pleasure. And then you could sort of transcribe then alcohol, drugs, eating, any addiction along that. So if you're doing something like scrolling because I feel uncomfortable, or I want to feel better, just put that phone away and do something wholesome.
Because those things are inextricably linked, aren't they? Pain and pleasure. That's why people abuse painkillers sometimes when they're feeling depressed, because it does actually alleviate the depression a little bit. I mean, obviously not in a healthy way, but we do seek out those things. Like, you might go out and get a load of sugar to make yourself feel better, but it never really lasts, and it probably makes it a little bit worse as well, because you just end up seesawing back and forth. It is mad.
Yeah. With the social media thing as well, one thing that, this might just be like Instagram science, so you can just straight out call me out if it's wrong. One thing that I've noticed that I do is, where I'm so busy in the day and I'm always trying to do stuff, I tend to stay up late at night and don't get as much sleep as I need, even though I know that I need to, and that's when I'm up scrolling, and it's a sort of a way of just giving myself that agency and that control, and be like, this is something I can control. I can control that I'm staying up and doing this thing, and this is my time, rather than just doing what I know that I need to do, even though like it'll just keep the cycle keep going. Then it's like,
do you mind me asking how late you set up doing that?
Oh, too late.
Too late.
Way too late. Just because I'm one for a schedule. When I'm in my schedule, it's fine. So I'll tend to try and go to bed at like 10:30, 11, and I'll get up at like 7, 7:30ish. And then like recently, it's been like sort of 1, 2 o'clock in the morning, and I'm like, I need to go to bed. Like, it's way too late now.
Yeah, you got to watch out for those spirals, haven't you? Because, like, as I mentioned there with the that seesaw and that pleasure and pain thing, is when you feel that bit of you feel a bit of discomfort. You want a bit of time to yourself. You want that agency, and you're giving yourself that agency in that moment. Your body loves that. It loves it. It wants to do that again and again and again. But if it is just then slowly chipping away at your sleep, it's slowly your kind of dopamine levels are peaking and troughing a bit too much. You will just cause kind of further pain. And there's no easy way of saying it. You've got to find alternatives. That somehow it's hard, but I'm guilty of doing that as well. And I notice whenever I'm stressed, I'm kind of burning the candle at both ends, and I'm doing a bit too much. I find myself clinging on to the night, and I just another Netflix episode, a bit more kind of binging on Twitter and stuff, and or X, as there is now. But it's a tough one. But knowing that is a problem, and knowing that you're giving into that kind of that urge just to sort of feel better, is tough.
Yeah, it definitely is. And I think something that doesn't help with it is where so many jobs these days, you have to do socials and like keep your social media up to date for work. Like for me running this podcast, I do everything on Instagram. I'm following people, I'm liking their stuff, I'm trying to keep like relationships going, following, like keeping up to date with everything, trying to find new guests, messaging people, and it's like non-stop. And then from doing that, I do then just get sucked into scrolling again. Like it's so easy to do. Like it's like you were saying, it's been engineered that way to drag you in, and I don't think it's like the fault of the companies. They're in the business of attention. Like they're doing their job. They're doing it very well. And we're just falling for it, essentially.
Yeah. You're obviously a bit of an amateur athlete as well yourself. You like to have a lot of activity. Do you know the impact on having less sleep has on you?
I do, but you're more than welcome to talk about it. Love to hear more.
We are sort of programmed to go in cycles with our circadian rhythm, and the release of certain hormones and things like that. You're massively impacting your body's ability to produce testosterone, which is huge, in building muscle, your body's ability to recover as well. It's going to be massively affecting your performance, your ability to train. So I would definitely look at nipping that in the butt if you could.
Sleep's our session 4 on Monday, Jazz. That's our topic in our wellbeing workshops.
Yeah, it's something that I know I've struggled with previously, and I do like dip in and out of it, but it's something I am very aware of. Like I track everything. I'm typical podcaster. Well. Yeah, Whoop.
I'm definitely judging you now if you've got a Whoop band on and you're doing that. It's
sponsored by Whoop.
I wish we were sponsored by Whoop. If you're listening, anyone from Whoop, like reach out.
Please
we could do with some sponsors. Huel as well, massive Huel drinker. I am your like bog standard podcaster at this point.
Okay.
But yeah, like I track everything. I am a numbers guy.
So I was thinking of podcast Athletic Greens. That's where that's
Better Help. That's the next one.
ExpressVPN.
Yeah, like I do track everything. I'm a bit.
You must see the impact then on your recovery the next day when you stay up a few hours late.
Yeah, and it tells me. I go on the impact, and most of the time I am pretty good. I'll be like generous to myself. That's something I'm awful at as well from a mental health side of things. Is I'm so harsh on myself when things aren't going right. I put the blame all on myself, and I know how unhealthy that is, and I don't give myself a break.
Yeah.
And I recognise these patterns, and I think that's something that's helped me a lot, because I've gone to therapy like a few times. I've been like in and out, seeing different therapists, and the thing that's really helped me a lot is just noticing the patterns, like noticing when I'm not getting enough sleep, noticing when I'm being harsh on myself, and be like, would I like it if someone else was talking to me like that? Would I coach gymnastics, would I talk to my gymnasts the way I talk to myself? And I'll be like, no, I don't. Like, don't talk to yourself like that. It's not helpful. It's not going to benefit me in any way. If anything, it just makes it worse. And yeah, like I've noticed the pattern of my sleep is something that's been happening the past few weeks, and it's something that I know I need to work on, and that I think that's the first stage.
I mean, would you be better off in that situation? Yeah, I assume you train pretty regularly.
Yeah.
Is it like almost daily or something like that?
Daily.
Yeah,
sometimes
would you be better off in that
a day.
situation, saying, right, work's getting on top of me, I've got no free time now, I'm going to get a good night's sleep and cut back my training the next day by half an hour or an hour and take that time then? It'd be much better for you, consistently, because your body would be in a better position the next day after that to train pretty flipping hard if you feel ready for it then.
Yeah.
I'd say I'd go for that route.
Yeah, I think for me personally, like that's definitely a solid option for a lot of people. But I think for me, what I tend to do is I make myself busier than I need to. So
Yeah.
I'll be like, right, I'm running the podcast, I've got all the editing, everything to do. I've got my full-time job of coaching gymnastics. And then as soon as I've got any downtime, I suck at downtime. I'm like, right, what else can I be doing? And then I make myself do more. And really, I should just be like, no, I've got this really good thing going. I've got this other really good thing going. I'm managing to stay on top of my diet and train and do all these healthy things. Why do I need anything else? And that's the bit I struggle with. And then I just, like I'm saying, I make myself too busy, and then I go into these bad habits and I start losing track of stuff just because I've simply taken too much on.
Yeah. The other thing I think would probably work there as well, there's a YouTuber I was watching recently who's talking about nutrition. He was talking about his clients that tend to go off on binges and really like fast food and can't live 100% healthily. And he says, well, you just take like 10% of your daily calories and just have like a bit of chocolate, or I don't know, 20% and have a burger, but then 80% of it you make really clean.
Yeah.
Could you schedule a bit of time for yourself? And say, look, I've got to have this specified bit of time every day. Sounds painful thinking about it. But that would mean that I keep my sleep on track all the time, and I'm going to be better off in the long run.
Yeah.
And I won't have those moments where I think, right, I really need to claw some time back for myself now because everything's gone mental. It's like, no, I've actually put some time aside every day. It doesn't have to be a huge amount, just 30 minutes every day. You say, well, at least I've got that to myself.
Yeah, definitely.
A lot of people struggle with kind of similar thing you're talking about, just that life is a grind, isn't it? And if you chuck in, some guys chuck in kids to the equation, you chuck in physical health problems in the equation, other kind of duties and responsibilities we have, it's really hard. And a little thing from like there's a therapy called behavioral activation that treats depression, is that it's all about scheduling stuff. So it's having like that diary. So if for people who maybe just get home that night and think, oh God, I just want to cling on to the day. I want to have a bit of control. I'm going to just binge on whatever I want to binge on, whether it's Netflix, TV, social media, or whatever. It's just to work out what you value. Think about what other things you value in life. Do you value health? Do you value learning stuff? Do you value certain things? And then just making sure that those are scheduled roughly in your week. And so you're doing all those little bits. Because then if you're doing those things regularly, so say you're calling this friend, you're doing this, you're reading this book, you're doing this as a hobby, and you're doing it on a regular basis, where possible, that's manageable. It means that when you do have those times when you are stressed, you aren't going to necessarily want to cling on to that control of that day, because you've ticked those boxes, you've fulfilled that in your week, or you say, I got this tomorrow, so I can do this tomorrow. Yeah, it's all about kind of planning and working out what your values are, moving towards those values. Well,
that's always
as easy as that sounds, isn't it?
So it's in those moments when you're burnt out that you'll make those decisions that are moving away from what your personal values are.
Yeah.
Because I can tell just by talking to you that you probably hate yourself for having scrolled through Instagram for a few hours.
Oh yeah.
That's
Wake up the next morning and I'm like, oh my God, why did I do that?
That's not something where if you were sat down and say, right, I've got today and only today, I need to do something important, you wouldn't go, Instagram.
Yep.
No, you'd pick something else, wouldn't you? So
yeah.
You make those decisions ahead of time, and then when you find yourself in that situation, you're less likely to go off the rails.
Yeah.
We actually covered that in session 7 in our well-being podcast.
Yeah.
I think it really links well to, there's so much mental health advice out there that it's hard to know what to do and how to do it, because I was very much on like the self-improvement train of like, yeah, you've got to get up early, you've got to read, you've got to journal, like
Ice
following
bath.
stoicism, ice bath,
meditate for
train,
40
meditate
minutes.
and do all these things. And I'm one of these people, like I've been saying, I'll jump straight in. I'll be like, I don't just want to do some of it, I'm doing all of it. And I'll like go in, I'll create this amazing routine. Like I'm the same with training. I'll write out this like amazing plan. You look at it, you're like, he spent weeks on that, like it's perfect. It's like a whole year planned out. And then you get round to doing it, and it's almost like the planning idea is like better than the doing. And you get round to it, you'll do it for like a few weeks, and then as soon as you miss a session, you're like, oh, I can't believe I've missed that, like it was such a perfect plan. And then it just goes downhill, and I'm learning to be better with that.
I'm smirking because I do that all the time.
Oh,
you get 3
yeah.
sessions in, you realise, shit, I've really overloaded this one. I'm burnt out to a crisp. I can't do anymore.
Or other times it will just be like, oh, I feel like I've missed something out, and then you're going back and changing it because you want to make it perfect. And this idea that it's never going to be perfect, that's something that I've struggled with myself a lot, and it's something like, again, something I've noticed and I'm starting to change. So every other time before I've like gone to a training plan, I've had like this challenge in mind, I want to do it, I've gone all out, written like a 6-day-a-week program, tried to optimize everything in my schedule, and then this time what I've done is I've been like, right, no, the most important thing for me right now is my diet. My diet was going downhill, I noticed it, and I couldn't figure out why, and it was just because I got in late from work, because coaching gymnastics is evenings and weekends, you get in late every day, and then that's when I had planned like my biggest meal, and I was like, I don't feel like cooking when I get in, so what should I do? I rescheduled that to lunch now, and then I have like a light fruit bowl or something that I can just do quick, so I'm still getting the nutrients and everything I need, but it's not a hassle to do. And then from that I've been like, right, now I need to introduce, I was running regularly anyway, so I was like, now I need to introduce something else now that that's part of my routine. And then I've been like, right, weight program, and then typical me, I was like, right, 6 days a week, and I was like, no, stop. And as part of Adventure Athletes, we write fitness programs, and I released a free intro to lifting weights program, 3 days a week. It might be changing to 4 days a week, but just like it's going through the trial phase. And I was like, I'm just going to follow that program. Like, nothing hard. It's 3 exercises a day. Really easy to just go in, do like 20 minutes, not overloading myself, doesn't take forever, and just to get in the routine of it rather than trying to make everything perfect.
Yeah, again, these kind of things are outside my area of knowledge in terms of mental health, but it's just like that. It's almost like that when you're taking up a new routine, a new habit is working out. What is the cost and what is the sort of the benefit of it?
Yeah.
Like ice baths is a kind of recent thing. I bought one of those ice tubs for my garden, and I don't use it as much as I should be doing. As much. And first week I was like, yeah, every day, 6 o'clock in the morning, diving in there. But like, the cost of doing that is quite a labour intensive mental thing to do every day, but it's not that I'm not doing as much. It's no real difference to my life, It's so that effort, that one routine was quite laborious, and the actual rewards weren't actually that much for me. And it's finding out, working out those things is what is the cost and benefit of these things.
Yeah.
Because it's all good enough for saying, and I speak to a lot of guys who get into that mindset. They just want to kind of get all these things, do these things, and they get too stressed, and they're doing things that largely aren't going to have that much benefit for you anyway.
Yeah.
I know everyone's sort of different, but it's just that cost benefit, isn't it, of the behaviour you're doing.
Yeah.
I think there's a few things there that underpin all that jumping out at me is every ideal is a judge. You sit there and you come up with that perfect program. Well, as soon as you set that perfect program, you started on it. If you don't meet that expectation in the slightest, you're not living up to that ideal. You're going to start judging yourself straight away. You're like, oh, I should be doing this. I should be able to do everything. And again, it's like everything in its context. Because I bet you your 3-day-a-week weightlifting program, that was probably on top of a load of other stuff, wasn't it? You weren't just doing the 3 days a week weightlifting.
So with me now, it is just I'll do some running, which was just part of my routine.
Yeah.
And then I've just added that in as the extra.
I would say start off by just adding a little bit at a time, if it was me personally, because you probably do your running. Well, you're not just doing your weightlifting, you're doing weightlifting and running, and how do those things interact, and just slowly add bits over time and allow your body to adapt to it and become accustomed, and also give you time to practice it, because the more you practice and do things continuously, the easier they become when you're under stress. When your discipline falters when you're under stress, you can fall back on what you've practiced because you just do it automatically. So it's just like building the habits over a longer period of time instead of trying to throw yourself into something, and just building them up very slowly, and find it a lot easier to stick to in the long run.
Yeah.
But that's just the way that I approach things.
Yeah. I think that's definitely more the sort of route that I've gone down for this, because for me, I've always been used to, when I've lifted weights, 6 sessions a week, doing like 8 to 10 exercises every session, and I'd be in the gym for like sometimes an hour and a half, and it's like doing that on top of like the running. No, because I do that with the running.
Oh yeah.
And then I was like, doing that with the running it doesn't work. Doing that, trying to cycle or trying to do that and keep up sports, because I like was really into rock climbing over summer, and I was trying to rock climb, weightlift, run, signing up for events, and I was like, it's too much. So now, this is me taking a step back as being like, right, running, that's been a constant throughout. Weightlifting, I've built that back in, because every time I've gone to do it, I've tried that perfect plan, hasn't worked, and I've just sort of scrapped it. And I think the thing is, when it goes wrong, and you're that harsh on yourself, you can't just be like, I'll just pick it up again tomorrow, it doesn't matter that much. It's like, no, that whole thing's ruined now, like, let's get rid of that, start again. And then starting again is just such an effort that half the time you don't start again.
I mean, you can have like a total capacity for stuff, like you got to fit in all your weightlifting, and maybe you run in as well, and then you try and add something else in. I mean, that total capacity you can build up over time, higher and higher, but you're not going to do it suddenly.
Yeah.
It's just like, you got your weightlifting, and then I would throw in one run a week that I know I can definitely do.
Yeah.
Make it super easy. And if I recover fine from that, the following week, okay, maybe I'll increase the length of that run or add in a second run, and just slowly build it up over time, and eventually you find your capacity will go up.
Yeah.
You see these like professional athletes who can do just everything, or they train an insane amount. They get there eventually over years and years and years of consistency, not just, I'm suddenly going to take up this program. Bosh.
I think what a lot of it comes down to for me was, I used to be able to do it all. Like, back in like 2018, 2019, going into 2020, I could do it all. Like, I was a firefighter at the time, so I was doing all my firefighter training. Yeah. As like an example, I did a strongman competition in Cardiff, and then within a month I was running an ultramarathon. And it was like, I had the capacity to train because I'd built that up over like years of training. Yeah. And then I got injured in 2020, snapped my ankle in half, couldn't walk on it for 6 months, went back to like learning how to walk and run again. And then like that long process, because it's not just the 6 months of not walking, it's then being able to build up the sort of muscles and like tendons, ligaments, everything around it to take impact, especially like running constant impact, and doing sports and getting it moving properly again took probably another year and a half, maybe up to 2 years.
Wow.
And then it's like trying to come back from that and then be like I was before, and have that ideal in my head of like, I used to be like this like great person that could do all these amazing things, and now I can't. I really struggled with that.
Yeah, I mean, that sounds horrific to get over, but you do see that regularly, guys thinking, 20 years ago I used to be able to do this fine.
Yeah.
It's amazing when we put that pressure on ourselves and we don't go, oh, hang on a minute, that was like, God knows how long ago. And I do it regularly as well.
Yeah.
But you've got to look at your situation where you are right now.
Yeah.
I mean, if you were dropped on a desert island, you wouldn't go, oh shit, I can't do this, can't do that. You just be like, no, this is where I am. This is what I've got available. I'm just going to crack on with it.
Yeah.
You've got to take stock, haven't you?
You say it's a bit about that acceptance, and this is something from our approach called acceptance commitment therapy. Is that idea that you know, if you can worry about things that are out of your control, you can worry about things that bring you emotional pain, but they're not going to do anything else. All it's going to cause you is more distress and more kind of trauma. But what you can do is you can just accept, you know, what is, and do things you can do, and that, with that kind of mindset, you can sort of move forward and accept it. Yeah, I've been through a hell of a lot, you know, and I've broke my leg or whatever, and move on. I'm going to nick a little thing from I think it's Ryan Holiday. He's talking about watching the other day on this podcast. He was talking about Stoicism and Marcus Aurelius, and he was saying that his like kind of motto for life is like, more often than not. So if more often than not, you're just kind of doing the thing you should be doing, you're moving towards your values more often than not, that gives you that wiggle room to lapse every now and then. You know, you can have one day where I'm going to binge on a tub of ice cream, or I'm going to skip this training, or I'm going to take it easy today. But if like most days of the week you're doing the thing you set out to do, I think you're onto a net winner, and that alleviates and all that emotional kind of worry and baggage of just failing or lapsing altogether. But yeah, I like that more often than not saying.
Yeah. Something that reminds me of is again, this is something that I found from personal experience. I'm not like a mental health nurse like you.
You're the
Anything like
majority
that.
here,
So one thing that I've noticed is, and I've sort of came up with this idea of almost like periodizing some of the things I do, like you would with a like good sports specific program, and realizing that you don't have to do everything all the time. And this idea of like, because I go through phases where I'll read a lot and I love reading, and then it sort of just drops off, and then again, me being me, want to do everything and want everything to be perfect, and I've got that ideal of this is how many books I should be reading a year and all of that, and then as soon as it drops off, I get so harsh on myself. But then it's realising that I don't need it at this time. I'm prioritising something else, like you were saying earlier. Like, yeah, it's like you can prioritise different things at different times in the year. Like at some point, your ice baths might have been really beneficial for you, but now you've sort of got past that initial benefit and you don't need it right now. But maybe again in the future, it'll come in again. And it's just accepting that it's not, you just can't do everything at once, and there's going to be a time and a place for different things, and it's okay to like let things go.
I think with especially when you said like reading there, I'm pretty similar as well. In the past, where I've gone, right, I'm going to take up reading and I'm just going to read. It's like, and then you burn out and you're like, oh, hang on a minute, why am I reading? Just reading for the hell of reading. It's like, maybe you should set yourself a bit of a project so you've got a purpose behind it as well. Because you will burn out quite quickly. And it's the same with a lot of these things, like ice baths and things like that. If you don't know why you're doing it, or you're not doing it with a set purpose, then you won't be able to sustain them for very long.
Yeah.
We're not meant to, I think, either. As humans, we're not meant to sort of do these things religiously with routine. We're meant to be sort of different and constantly on the move and changing, and we get bored of stuff quickly. That's how we roll, Yeah, I think.
Yeah. So going back to Stand Tall and the workshops you run, what are the sort of biggest tools that you teach to the people that come through your doors on day one, leave on week 8? What's like the biggest tools that they walk away with that really benefits their lives?
Yeah, so most of my knowledge base when it comes to these workshops is sort of embedded in sort of cognitive behavioural therapy principles. So the fundamental idea of that is that from day one, we teach us on day one, is the role of our thinking. When we're at our worst, when we feel stressed, angry, depressed, our thoughts will betray us. They don't reflect what is reasonable. If you were to zoom outside yourself, that thinkiness that you can see going on is our proportions unreasonable. So we will think in catastrophic ways. We'll jump to conclusions. I think you mentioned perfectionism a couple of times. We'll think in those perfectionist ways, and it's those sort of thinking processes that are just going to exacerbate our difficulties. And it's sort of just being able to spot that and go, right, I'm catastrophizing. I am seeing things in very black and white terms. So that's a really good start, because we're designed as humans to think in really rigid, quick, ways. We're designed to see the worst. We're designed to think the worst. We're designed to catastrophize and come up with those thoughts very, very quickly. Because that kept us alive. If you're in danger, it helps to be catastrophic and get out of danger. Then they may not even be a danger, but it helps because you're removing yourself from that danger. And so knowing that is a start. And so when you're struggling, I'm being catastrophic. I know this is my brain now taking things out of proportion. So they learn that on day one. We learn about the role of depression. So the idea of the cycle of lack of sort of behaviour. So when we do less, we feel worse. When we feel worse, that has consequences in our life. They learn that. They learn the idea that around anxiety. So when we're faced with anxiety, when we have anxiety problems, or we're particularly anxious, we want to avoid, and that is the very mechanism that keeps the anxiety going. So it's about being able to sit with discomfort and tolerate things in order to challenge anxiety. The guys will learn about a bit of science around sleep rhythms and sleep cycles, and how to work on managing their sleep, how to manage how to handle and manage difficult emotions, and tips and skills to deal with those things. I've mentioned ACT. There's a session ACT where we get guys to think about what they value, and when they're faced with problems in life, the decisions we make often move, they're like the antithesis of our values. And then I think that's probably a rough snapshot of the kind of things we're learning. And it's under, I think somebody said self-development earlier. I know self-development doesn't really kind of go alongside mental health and sort of the kind of cognitive therapy. We're trying to instill a bit of that, because if you can instill a bit of self-development in people, I think from my experience, men like that. I think that's why you get Instagram is full of bro scientists, isn't it? And who are, trying to self-develop on stuff. Men like that. But if you can kind of tailor that then to get them looking after the basics of the mental health, of their sleep, of their well-being, and exercise, I think you're onto a bit of a winner there.
So to summarise, every bit of what you do every week is the most important bit.
Yeah.
Pretty sure that's what the question was.
Have I got too long answer? Yeah. Can I summarise that into a sentence?
What's the most important bit?
The most important bit is appreciating. So if the guys could remember one thing at the end of this course, is that it's okay to feel like rubbish, but you've got the kind of resilience to be able to do the thing that's best for you in those moments, and that's kind of what you want to do. You don't want to retreat into yourself or isolate. That's probably the main message I think would kind of represent every session.
Yeah.
Amazing. Thanks a lot.
Go on.
We've been doing these beyond equality sessions about masculinity. That's probably the one thing that I've taken away from the first session that's hit me the most, is thinking about how masculinity feeds into mental health issues. Where you hear a lot these days that masculinity has got all these problems, it's causing mental health problems. But really, the way I'm looking at it now is masculinity is almost like an armour you put up to get you through those hard times, but you can't keep going like that forever and just locking it all in. And being able to learn these skills for how to deal with things, how to deal with your emotions, learn about your emotions. It's almost like the masculine way that women deal with emotions, because they get together and they talk about it and they process it that way by talking about things, whereas men don't really respond in that way. Whereas what we're doing here is a more masculine approach, where you're looking to get tools to help you deal with your emotions and those things that your armour just is holding back. But I think that's the big thing with blokes and mental health these days.
Yeah,
definitely. So that leads me on to what do we think the issue is specifically with men? There seems to be a big jump in charities helping for men's mental health. Why now? Because we've got Stand Tall Wales, you've got Helpy, they've come up this year as well. Men Talk Walk, that's another local one. Why is it all of a sudden now that people are starting to pay attention? What's happened that's brought it to the light?
Yeah, I think when it comes to sort of a lot of the stats around men's mental health, around men in general, I think men come out typically on all the worst metrics of everything now. So educational attainment is at its lowest. There's less men in professional careers now. There's men are more likely to become addicts of some description. More likely to take their life. More likely to be the purpose of violence. More likely to be incarcerated. There's a lot there. So there's something going on where all these things are happening to men, and I think that's becoming a bit more kind of prevalent now. I think these organisations are popping up because they're very much needed, because a lot of men are suffering, and I think historically, and there's a lot of statistics in this. I can't quote the exact study, but it's men seldom help seek. It's a behaviour that most men don't do. They don't help seek. It's not in a lot of men to reach out for help when it's needed. Whereas female counterparts, and when I say men and women, I'm being really general. Women will reach out and talk. They will go to the GP. They'll tell people about the problems, and there's no kind of stigma there, or there's less stigma. Whereas men really struggle to. I think these organisations are popping up now. Is trying to get those guys to talk, to open up, because there's a huge cohort of men who are suffering. Who are we all know the stat around men are 3 times more likely to take their life. And it's for the very reason that men don't seek that help. They would prefer to, wear the armour up, even though it's not beneficial to them in the long run. They're keeping their armour on, and they're stuck. And then the longer they take to reach out, to open up, they've hit crisis point at that point already. I think there's a lot of awareness around it, but I think it's for a very good reason.
Yeah, no, that sums it up really nicely. So thinking about everything we've spoken about today, and I'll ask both of you this individually, what is one thing that the listeners should take away? And this could be from just what we've spoken about, or it could be your own life experience. What is the one biggest piece of advice you would give to anyone listening?
As you probably guessed, I don't give one good piece of advice. I think.
Tell us about the entire course again, Paul.
My biggest advice, and again, the reason I'm saying this is because I've spoken to literally thousands of people, and I've had in-depth conversations about their mental health and their suffering, and across the board, if someone is struggling with mental health, it's because underlying all this stuff, all their life events and the trauma they've gone through, whatever it might be, in that moment in time, they're not looking after the small stuff. They are not prioritising their sleep. They're not spending time with people. They're not outside where they can. They're not moving enough. They're not doing stuff they enjoy. All the very simple stuff. So my advice is that the good times in your life were good because you were doing the small stuff. Yeah, so sweat the small stuff. That's my advice.
Amazing.
Beyond sweating the small stuff, I'd say move more, especially move better as well. Mobility is my big bugbear at the moment. A lot of people don't move correctly and it leads to injuries, lots of other problems. If you're not doing exercise at all, the best thing you could probably do at the end of each meal, go for a 10-minute walk. Just get up after dinner straight away, build a habit of doing it so it almost becomes automatically. Go outside, start a stopwatch, walk for 5 minutes in one direction really fast. When you get to 5 minutes, turn around, walk back. You find yourself doing 30 minutes of intense exercise every day then. And that'll probably have the biggest benefit. It's much cheaper than joining a gym, and if you've never done exercise before, it's probably a lot better for you than just throwing yourself into an intense course of exercise it would give up after a few weeks.
Amazing. Right, thanks for that advice, guys. Where can people find you online?
Yeah, so on Instagram, Facebook at Stantle Wales, and our website stantlewales.co.uk. We're trying our hand at social media around, so we're doing our best to try to engage with as much people as we can and sort of spreading the message of what we're doing. So find more there. And if anyone is local to the Vale of Glamorgan and wants to participate in what we do, they could just go to our website, fill out a self-referral. So they don't have to go to the GP or like that. They can fill out a quick form, have a quick conversation, and they can get on our list for our strength and wellbeing course.
So that self-referral's on our website. If you're on your laptop, there's a bar at the top, self-referral. If you're on your phone, 3 lines top right hand corner of the screen, click that, you'll see self-referral pop up, you just click on there.
Yeah, and it's free.
Amazing. Well, thanks for everything you're doing, guys, and thank you for coming on the podcast. Really appreciate your time.
Thank you.
It's been great.
All the best. Thanks for listening to this episode of the Adventure Athletes podcast. If you like this episode, make sure you follow us on Instagram, Spotify and YouTube and share our content around. It helps more than you can ever imagine. Now, if there's a person in particular that you want to hear from or a topic that you want us to cover, just drop us a message, let us know in our DMs, and we'll make sure we try and reach out to the relevant people to cover that topic for you. We're always trying to make content that you guys want to listen to. We have just dropped our website, it's adventureathletes.co.uk, and you can go on there to find out the range of different services we offer. So we have sports massage, different training programs, and personal training, both online and in person, that you can sign up to on the website. So make sure you go and check us out at adventureathletes.co.uk.